Well, what I think would be wonderful if Indigenous people are treated fairly and justly, most of the work we do is just not be needed.
I thought being a lawyer would be a good way to show love and caring for neighbor and justice. It's covered pretty quickly that the legal system doesn't care much about marginalized people.
An anniversary is to celebrate, not that OKT has existed for 25 years, but that we have been able to do this work for 25 years. And honestly, it's our privilege to be able to do this work, to be part of the struggles, to be part of that journey with them.
I became a lawyer in 1965 and discovered pretty quickly that the legal system doesn't care much about marginalized people. So after 2 years, I said, well, I'm not going to continue in this practice.
I had actually known John since the late 70s, at which time neither of us were working as lawyers. John was qualified as a lawyer, but he was doing Indigenous support work in Toronto. And I was also involved in Indigenous support work.
I thought, well, now that Section 35 is in the Constitution, it might be a good time to get back into law. But I had been out of law then for over 20 years. So I applied to the Law Society in Ontario and had the support of people like Ian Binney and so on, others with letters. And so eventually they said, okay, but you have to article for a year first. So and then I went to Hugh Morris and said, okay, and he said, yeah, come and join us. So I articled there and then started work. Had a bit of a client base and thought, well, we need more lawyers. So Nancy applied, and we had a discussion when she was biking in Cape Breton.
John Olthuis had been working at Morse Rose Legend, and he hired Roger as an articling student, and then I came in as an associate to do environmental law for clients in Ontario. I had been doing forest management hearings representing Anishinaabe Nation and Grand Council Treaty Number 3 back in, when I started out as a lawyer. And so I gained experience doing environmental assessment work for First Nation clients.
And then we worked together for 7 years, and then as he was added around the same time as I started.
So we spent a number of years at Morris Rose then together. I was there for 13 years.
We had our own little unit there doing what's called Aboriginal law at the time. And we were kind of unique on our own and doing our own thing, although we used some of the services from the other part of the firm. And we'd always talked about going out on our own. But then the firm actually, Morse Rose Legend, split up. And
then because we had this client base, we decided to go out on our own.
We started out in a tiny little office space over at 229 College. And we really had clients that we still have today, major clients, Innu Nation and Saugeen and Ojibwe Nation, and we were doing a little bit of other people. And then we just kept adding because we were just responding to the needs of our clients. And we had no plan for where we wanted to go other than we wanted to do excellent work for all of our clients, wherever they were in Canada.
The first brochure we used, and I brought that because it does have a mission statement on it, and that says justice for Aboriginal nations and individuals, protection of the environment, and defense of individual and collective human rights motivate and focus us in our legal practice. Now, I think that's still true, but we're more sharply focused on Indigenous rights.
So you look back on 25 years and say, well, what did we achieve in 25 years? Well, we didn't, it wasn't about the fact that OKT grew and we have this great firm. It was about what have we been able to do? Not even just groundbreaking national kind of work, but to help individual organizations who have particular needs that have to be dealt with, and there's legal matters that we as practicing Aboriginal law in Canada can help with.
There's 90% of the land in Canada now is so-called Crown land. And much of that could be returned to Indigenous people. As a firm, we have a public obligation also to speak on those issues, do more policy work, do more encouragement of Indigenous development of Indigenous law, and not just in conjunction with clients, but perhaps with alliances of clients who all want this and then want to implement it in their own ways. That's kind of how I see the next 25 years.
But what I hope, it'll be about implementation of those self-government rights. That we're actually, like, right now we're creating frameworks so that these laws can be passed, and a few laws are starting to be passed. But in 25 years, what I want to be involved in is, well, how is this law being implemented? It's been written now, how is it being implemented? Big picture, decolonizing. What does that mean? Lots of things, but one of the things it really means is that nations will be self-governing again. That's where I hope OKT will be working on in 25 years.
Indigenous nations are treated fairly, we wouldn't need to do most of what we do. And if we can work ourselves out of a job, that would be the ultimate success.